treatment of chronic myeloid leukemia. So since 2001, 6 drugs have been approved by US Food and Drug Administration for treatment of CML. So what are these 6 drugs used in the treatment of chronic myeloid leukemia? So these include 5 oral TKIs, that is 5 oral tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So these are imatinib, nilotinib, dasatinib, bosutinib and ponatinib. So what are the 5 oral tyrosine kinase inhibitors? So these are imatinib, nilotinib, dasatinib, bosutinib and ponatinib. Imatinib, nilotinib, dasatinib, bosutinib and ponatinib. So dasatinib, nilotinib and bosutinib, DNB, dasatinib, nilotinib and bosutinib. So these are referred to as second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So ponatinib, this is referred to as third generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor. Ponatinib is third generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor. Dasatinib, nilotinib and bosutinib. So these are second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So nilotinib, it is similar in structure to imatinib is first generation. Nilotinib, so this is similar in structure to imatinib, but it is 30 times more potent. So nilotinib is 30 times more potent than imatinib. Dasatinib and bosutinib, they inhibit the SRC family of kinases in addition to ABL1. If we take this dasatinib and bosutinib, so D and B, so they inhibit the SRC family of kinases in addition to the ABL1 with dasatinib. So this is reported to be 300 times more potent, and bosutinib 30 to 50 times more potent than imatinib. So compared to first generation, second generation is more potent. So this dasatinib and bosutinib, they inhibit the SRC family of kinases in addition to the ABL1, and this dasatinib, so it is reported to be 300 times more potent, and bosutinib 30 to 50 times more potent than imatinib. In contrast to all other TKIs, this bosutinib, this has no activity against c-KIT or platelet derived growth factor receptor. Bosutinib has got no activity against c-KIT or platelet derived growth factor in contrast to the all other tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So bosutinib, no activity against c-KIT or platelet derived growth factor receptor. So this ponatinib, so this is highly effective against wild type and mutant BCR ABL1 clones. So if you take this ponatinib, so this is highly effective against wild type as well as mutant BCR ABL1 clones. So it is the only available BCR ABL1 tyrosine kinase inhibitor which is active against T315A1. So this is a gatekeeper mutation resistant to the other 4 ATP competitive tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So ponatinib, so this is the only available BCR ABL tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So this is active against a mutation, a gatekeeper mutation, that is 315I. So this is resistant. So patients who have this mutation, they are resistant to treatment with other 4 ATP competitive tyrosine kinase inhibitors. Ponatinib, so this also inhibits vascular endothelial growth factor receptor, which may at least partly responsible for the high incidence of hypertension with this agent. Why hypertension occurs with ponatinib? So this is because of the inhibition of the vascular endothelial growth factor receptor. So partly responsible for the high incidence of hypertension observed with this ponatinib. Imatinib 400 mg orally daily. Nilotinib 300 mg orally twice a day on an empty stomach. Dasatinib 100 mg orally daily and bosutinib 400 mg orally daily. So these are approved for frontline therapy of CML. So what are the drugs which are approved for frontline therapy of chronic myeloid leukemia? So these are imatinib 400 mg orally daily, nilotinib 300 mg orally twice a day on an empty stomach, dasatinib 100 mg orally daily and bosutinib 400 mg orally daily. So these are approved for the frontline therapy of chronic myeloid leukemia. Dasatinib 50 mg orally daily is as effective in frontline therapy as 100 mg daily and significantly less toxic. So dasatinib 50 mg orally daily, so this is as effective in frontline therapy as 100 mg daily, and this dasatinib is less toxic. All four are also approved for salvage therapy. So nilotinib 400 mg twice daily, bosutinib 500 mg daily, and others at the same dose as frontline therapy. So even all four are also approved for the salvage therapy in addition to the ponatinib. So ponatinib is also approved for the salvage therapy. So ponatinib 45 mg daily, so this may be associated with serious side effects. So there occur serious side effects with ponatinib 45 mg daily. So what are the serious side effects? So these are arterio-occlusive events, pancreatitis, hypertension and skin rashes. The side effects with ponatinib 45 mg daily are arterio-occlusive events, pancreatitis, hypertension and skin rashes. A response-directed dose-adjusted regimen with a starting dose of 45 mg and reduction to 15 mg once a cytogenetic response is achieved. So this has resulted in a reduced incidence of arterio-occlusive events, and this has become the standard. So if you are giving this a response-directed dose-adjusted regimen. So what is this regimen with ponatinib? So starting we give 45 mg and then we reduce it to 15 mg. So once a cytogenetic response is achieved, we reduce it to 15 mg. So this has resulted in a reduced incidence of arterio-occlusive events, and this has become the standard. Imatinib, dasatinib, bosutinib and ponatinib are also approved for the treatment of CML in transformation, accelerated and blastic phase, whereas nilotinib is only approved for chronic and accelerated phase. So if we take this imatinib, dasatinib, bosutinib and ponatinib, so all are also approved for the treatment of CML in transformation, that is accelerated and blastic phase. But if we take this nilotinib, so nilotinib is only approved for chronic and accelerated phase. So we can't give nilotinib in the blastic phase. So whereas nilotinib, it is only approved. So this is important. Nilotinib is only approved for chronic and accelerated phase. The sixth approved drug is omacitaxin. What is the sixth approved drug? So it is omacitaxin. So this is a protein synthesis inhibitor with presumed more selective inhibition of the synthesis of the BCR-ABL1 oncoprotein. Omacitaxin, so this is a protein synthesis inhibitor, presumed more selective inhibition of the synthesis of the BCR-ABL1 oncoprotein. So it is approved for the treatment of chronic and accelerated phase CML after failure of 2 or more tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So which conditions this omacitaxin is approved? So this omacitaxin is approved in chronic and accelerated phase CML after failure. So after failure of 2 or more tyrosine kinase inhibitors. At how much dose? Only in chronic and accelerated phase at 1.25 milligram per meter square subcutaneously, twice a day for 14 days for induction and for 7 days for consolidation maintenance. So after failure of 2 or more tyrosine kinase inhibitors, the accelerated chronic and accelerated phase, So this omacetaxin, so it is given at 1.25 mg per meter square subcutaneously twice a day for 14 days for induction and for 7 days for consolidation maintenance. The main adverse event of omacetaxin is prolonged myelosuppression. So what is the main adverse events of omacetaxin? It is prolonged myelosuppression. So thus many experts use shorter schedules, that is omacetaxin 5 to 7 days induction and 2 to 5 days maintenance. So why omacetaxin is only used for a shorter period? Because this omacetaxin, it causes prolonged myelosuppression. So because of this, a shorter schedule usage of omacetaxin, that is 5 to 7 days induction and 2 to 5 days maintenance. So this is often combined with a tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So this is a protein synthesis inhibitor. So medical therapeutic options in chronic myeloid leukemia. So imatinib all phases, dasatinib all phases, nilotinib all phases except blastic phase, bosutinib all phases, ponatinib optimal tyrosine, so except blastic phase, bosutinib all phases, optimal TKA if there is any mutation, and failure of greater than or equal to 2 tyrosine kinase inhibitors. Even omacetaxin also failure greater than or equal to 2 tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So what are the side effects with dasatinib? Myelosuppression, pleural and pericardial effusion, and pulmonary hypertension. So dasatinib causes myelosuppression, pleural and pericardial effusion, and pulmonary hypertension. Omacetaxin causes myelosuppression. Ponatinib causes skin rashes, pancreatitis, arterio-occlusive disease, and systemic hypertension. Bosutinib causes diarrhea, liver toxicity, and renal dysfunction, and nilotinib causes diabetes and arterio-occlusive disease and pancreatitis. So imatinib, dasatinib, bosutinib, and nilotinib are all acceptable frontline therapies in chronic myeloid leukemia. So the long-term results of imatinib are very favorable. Frontline therapies, what are the frontline therapies? Except ponatinib, so this imatinib does first and second generation, so all these are used as frontline therapies in chronic myeloid leukemia. So the long-term results of this imatinib, no, these are very favorable. So the 10-year follow-up results with imatinib, they show a cumulative complete cytogenetic response rate, that is occurring at least once of 83%, and with 60 to 65% of patients being in complete cytogenetic response at 5-year follow-up. So if we follow the patients for 5 years, so they'll be having 60 to 65% of the patients, they'll be still in complete cytogenetic response, and at least one complete cytogenetic response is seen in 83% of the patients, and the estimated 10-year survival rate is 85%. So with this imatinib, the 10-year survival rate is 85%. So among patients continuing on imatinib, the annual rate of transformation to accelerated blastic phase in years 4 to 8 is less than 1%. So a patient is taking imatinib regularly. So what is the annual rate of transformation to accelerated or blastic phase in years 4 to 8 is, it is less than 1%. So in 3 randomized studies, one comparing nilotinib, so in the 3 randomized studies, one comparing nilotinib 300 mg twice daily or 400 mg twice daily with imatinib, another comparing dasatinib 100 mg daily with imatinib, and a third comparing bosutinib 400 mg daily with imatinib. So all these are compared with imatinib. The second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitors, they were associated with better outcomes in early surrogate endpoints. So this second generation, no, they were associated with better outcomes. So including the higher rates of complete cytogenetic responses, major molecular response, and also the deep molecular response, and with lower rates of transformation to accelerated and blastic phase. So all the second generation, so they are compared with imatinib. So with this, what is happening is, so second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitors, so they are associated with better outcomes in early surrogate endpoints. and there is also a higher rate of complete cytogenetic response, deep molecular response and major molecular response. And lower rate of transformation to accelerated and blastic phase, but with this imatinib it is 7%. However, no study has shown a survival benefit with second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor. This may be because the rate of complete cytogenetic response is ultimately similarly high with imatinib versus second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor, and also because sequential therapy with tyrosine kinase inhibitor following close observation and treatment change and progression provides highly effective therapy for most patients. So this ensures adequate long-term outcome despite relapse or intolerance after initial therapy. Salvage therapy in chronic phase with dasatinib, nilotinib, bosutinib or ponatinib. So this is associated with complete cytogenetic response rates of 30 to 60% depending on the salvage status, cytogenetic versus hematological relapse, prior response to other TKIs, number of prior TKIs used and the mutations at the time of relapse. So salvage therapy in chronic phase in chronic phase salvage therapy with dasatinib, nilotinib, bosutinib or ponatinib. So this is associated with complete cytogenetic response rates of 30 to 60% depending on the salvage status, cytogenetic versus hematological relapse, prior response to other TKIs and number of prior TKIs used and the mutations at the time of relapse, and what are the mutations at the time of relapse. So complete cytogenetic responses are generally durable, particularly in the absence of clonal evolution. So if there is no clonal evolution, so these complete cytogenetic responses are durable. Ponatinib, so this is the only tyrosine kinase inhibitor active in the setting of T315I mutation. So patients who are having this mutation, the complete cytogenetic response rates of 50 to 70% among patients who have received 2 or more tyrosine kinase. So patient already would have received this 2 or more tyrosine kinase inhibitor, but after that if patient is given ponatinib with this mutation, they have a complete cytogenetic response rate of 50 to 70%. So what is the estimated 5-year survival rate with new tyrosine kinase inhibitor as salvage? So this is 70 to 75%. So before their availability, the 5-year survival rate as a salvage therapy with newer TKI was less than 50%, but because of their availability, the estimated 5-year survival rate with the newer tyrosine kinase inhibitor, so this has increased. For example, dasatinib salvage after imatinib failure in chronic phase CML. See, imatinib failure is there in chronic phase chronic myeloid leukemia. So dasatinib is given as a salvage therapy. So the estimated 7-year rate of major molecular response was 46%. 7-year survival rate was 65% and progression-free survival rate was 42%. So thus tyrosine kinase inhibitors in the salvage setting, so they have already reduced the annual mortality from the historical rate of 10 to 15% to less than or equal to 5%. So because of this tyrosine kinase inhibitors, the annual mortality is reduced to less than or equal to 5%. So what is the goal of chronic myeloid leukemia therapy? So this is survival prolongation. What is the goal of chronic myeloid leukemia therapy? It is survival prolongation. The achievement of treatment-free remission status has become a therapeutic goal of increased interest. So what is its survival prolongation? That is treatment free. Without treatment, there should be treatment free remission status. So this has become a therapeutic goal. So sustained deep molecular response or complete molecular response after discontinuation of tyrosine kinase inhibitor therapy. So there should be a complete molecular response and sustained deep molecular response. So in current practice, with the availability of the appropriate TKI therapy and with compliance monitoring and changing of TKI therapy as indicated by response or resistance and side effects, patients can have a near normal life expectancy with a relative survival similar to that of the general population. So therefore, in standard practice, achievement and maintenance of a complete cytogenetic response are the aims of therapy, because so what is the aim of therapy? There should be a complete cytogenetic response. So this is the only outcome associated with survival prolongation. There should be a complete cytogenetic response. So lack of achievement of a major molecular response or of deep molecular response should not be considered indications to change TKI therapy or to consider allogenic stem cell transplantation. So lack of achievement of a major molecular response or of deep molecular response offers a potential of treatment discontinuation of treatment periods. This should not be considered indications to change TKI therapy or to consider allogenic stem cell transplantation. So a general practice rule is to continue the, what is a general practice rule? It's to continue the particular tyrosine kinase inhibitor chosen at the most tolerable dose schedule, not associated with grade 3 to 4 side effects or with bothersome chronic side effects for long as possible until, so if we take this, if once this TKI chosen and to start this, it should be the most tolerable dose schedule. They should not have grade 3 or 4 side effects, and for as long as possible until either cytogenetic relapse or the persistence of until side effects occur or until there is a cytogenetic relapse occur. So this should be continued. So these two factors, that is cytogenetic relapse and intolerable side effects. So if there is a cytogenetic relapse or if there are any side effects, so these are the indicators of failure of a particular tyrosine kinase inhibitor therapy. So these are the indicators of failure. A second emerging general practice rule is that patient with CML should always receive daily TKI therapy throughout their lifetime. Chronic transformation, either alone, chronic or in combinations, possibly for those in transformation, although combinations not formally approved except perhaps in situations of molecular cure, treatment-free remission. What is the second emerging general practice rule is that patients with CML, they should always receive daily tyrosine kinase inhibitor therapy, that is throughout their lifetime. Chronic transformation, either alone, chronic or in combinations. Elective discontinuation of TKI if deep molecular response sustained for greater than 2 to 5 years, followed by close monitoring, or after allogenic stem cell transplantation with undetectable disease. And because of the increased prevalence of chronic myeloid leukemia and the emerging evidence of possible organ toxicities with long-term use, prevalence of CML is increasing, and organ toxicities with long-term use, that is renal with imatinib and bosutinib, arterio-occlusive with nilotinib, dasatinib and ponatinib. A goal of therapy of increasing interest in CML is to achieve eradication of the disease. So prevalence is increasing and organ toxicities with long-term use are also increasing, that is renal toxicity with imatinib and bosutinib and arterio-occlusive toxicity with nilotinib, dasatinib and ponatinib. So a goal of therapy of increasing interest in CML is to achieve eradication of the disease, that is molecular cure or treatment-free remission, that is prolonged and durable. So it should be prolonged and it should be durable with recovery of non-neoplastic, non-clonal hematopoiesis of TKI therapy. So if TKI therapy is discontinued, there should be recovery of the non-neoplastic, non-clonal hematopoiesis. So the first step toward this aim is to obtain the highest rates of deep molecular response lasting for at least 2 or more years. So what is the first step toward this aim? So there should be a highest rate of deep molecular response. So this deep molecular response should last for 2 or more years. So this is currently achievable in about 25 to 30% of patients treated with imatinib and 40 to 45% of patients treated with second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So with 40 to 45%, so this deep molecular response lasting for 2 or more years, so this is achievable with second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitors. Approximately 50 to 60% of those who meet this criteria and discontinue therapy remain free from therapy and in deep molecular response and major molecular response. As a result, treatment-free remission rates are estimated to be about 15 to 20% after imatinib therapy and 25 to 30%. So with second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor, treatment-free remission rates or more with second generation tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So recommendations provided by the NCCN, that is National Comprehensive Cancer Network, and by European Leukemia Network propose optimal or expected or suboptimal warning and failure response scenario at different time points of TKI treatment duration. Unfortunately, they have been misinterpreted in current practice because oncologists often report that their aim of treatment is the achievement of major molecular response and disease eradication. So significantly, a substantial proportion of oncologists consider a change of TKI therapy in a patient. So a substantial proportion of oncologists, when does they consider a change of TKI therapy in a patient in complete cytogenetic response if they note loss of major molecular response, that is if they note increase of BCR ABL1 transcripts from less than 0 to greater than 0.1%. So they do this BCR ABL1 transcript, and if the transcript percentage is increased to greater than 0.1%, so then they consider a change of tyrosine kinase inhibitor therapy. So this perception may be the result of confusion regarding the aims of the NCCN and European Leukemia Network guidelines, so which have been updated often as a result of maturing data and have multiple treatment endpoint considerations. Although such endpoints may have been suggested as possible criteria for failure or suboptimal response, it is important to emphasize that no randomized study has yet shown that a change of TKI treatment in patients with complete cytogenetic response because of a loss of major molecular response versus changing at the time of cytogenetic relapse improves survival or other long-term outcomes. So this is likely because of the high efficacy of salvage TKI therapy at the time of cytogenetic relapse. So there is a high efficacy of the salvage TKI therapy at the time of cytogenetic relapse. So it is important to emphasize that no randomized study has yet shown that a change of TKI treatment in patients with complete cytogenetic response because of a loss of major molecular response versus changing at the time of cytogenetic relapse improves survival or other long-term outcomes. So side effects of tyrosine kinase inhibitors are mild to moderate, although with long-term TKI therapy they could affect the patient's quality of life. So what are the side effects of tyrosine kinase inhibitors? So serious side effects occur in less than 5 to 10% of patients. So what are the side effects? So with imatinib therapy, common mild to moderate side effects include fluid retention, weight gain, nausea, diarrhea, skin rashes, periorbital edema, bone or muscle aches, fatigue and others. So if a patient is on imatinib therapy, the common mild to moderate side effects include fluid retention, weight gain, nausea, diarrhea, fluid retention will be there. Weight gain also will be there. Skin rashes, there will be a periorbital edema, fatigue and others. In general, second generation TKs, so they are associated with lower rates of these bothersome adverse events. So if we take the second generation TKs, there are a lower rate of these bothersome adverse events. However, dasatinib, 100 mg daily, so this dasatinib is associated with higher rates of myelosuppression, 20 to 30%, particularly thrombocytopenia with pleural or pericardial effusion and with pulmonary hypertension. So dasatinib is associated with pulmonary hypertension. And a lower dose of dasatinib instead of 50 mg daily, instead of 100 mg daily, used in frontline chronic myeloid leukemia therapy. So this has resulted in similar efficacy and a lower incidence of serious side effects. A lower dose of dasatinib, that is 50 mg daily, used in frontline chronic myeloid leukemia therapy. So this has resulted in similar efficacy and a lower incidence of serious side effects like pleural effusions and myelosuppression. Nilotinib is also associated with higher rates of hyperglycemia, pruritus and skin rashes. If we take nilotinib, so this is associated with higher rates of hyperglycemia, pruritus and skin rashes, hyperbilirubinemia, typically among patients with Gilbert syndrome and mostly of no clinical consequences and headache. Nilotinib, higher rates of hyperglycemia, pruritus and skin rashes, hyperbilirubinemia, typically among patients with Gilbert syndrome and mostly of no clinical consequences and headache. Nilotinib is also associated with occasional instances of pancreatitis. Nilotinib is associated with a 10-year cumulative incidence of cardiovascular complications of 15 to 25%. Pancreatitis, cardiovascular complications. Bosutinib, higher rates of liver toxicity, renal dysfunction and early and self-limited gastrointestinal adverse events, particularly diarrhea. So if we take bosutinib, there is a higher rate of liver toxicity, renal dysfunction, early and self-limited gastrointestinal adverse events. Occasionally, the gastrointestinal symptoms with bosutinib, they mimic chronic severe enterocolitis, so which reverses with treatment discontinuation. So if gastrointestinal symptoms are there with bosutinib, so this might mimic chronic severe enterocolitis. So if we stop the treatment, so this gastroenteritis will resolve. And ponatinib, so this causes higher rates of serious skin rashes, pancreatitis, elevations of amylase or lipase and systemic hypertension. And arterio-occlusive events are also have been reported with most tyrosine kinase. Arterio-occlusive means cardiovascular, cerebrovascular and peripheral arterial. Ponatinib, so this is associated with higher rates of skin rashes, pancreatitis. The incidence appears to be highest, arterio-occlusive events incidence, so this appears to be highest with ponatinib. But both nilotinib and dasatinib are also associated with these events, but they're significantly higher than that of imatinib. So among the TKs, bosutinib is associated with the lowest incidence of cardiovascular events. So what is a TK which is associated with lower incidence of cardiovascular events? So it is bosutinib. And nilotinib and dasatinib, they also cause prolongation of the QTc interval, that is prolongation greater than 470 to 480, and so they should be evaluated cautiously in patients with prolonged QT interval. Nilotinib and dasatinib, so they cause prolongation of the QT interval. So these side effects can often be dose dependent and are generally reversible with treatment interruptions and dose reduction. So all these side effects, if we either reduce the dose or we interrupt the treatment, so these side effects are reversible. So dose reductions, it can be individualized. However, the lowest estimated effective dose of tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So what is the lowest estimated effective dose? So imatinib 100 to 200 mg daily. nilotinib 150 mg twice daily or 200 mg daily, dasatinib 20 mg daily, bosutinib 200 to 300 mg daily, and ponatinib 15. So these are the lowest doses. With long-term follow-up, rare but clinically relevant serious toxicities are emerging. Long-term follow-up, clinically relevant serious toxicities. So renal dysfunction and occasionally renal failure, that is creatinine elevations greater than 2 to 3 or observed in 2 to 3% of patients, more frequently with imatinib and bosutinib. So this imatinib and bosutinib, so they cause renal failure and usually reverse with tyrosine kinase discontinuation and or dose reduction, and rarely patients may develop TKI related peripheral neuropathy or even central neurotoxicities that are misdiagnosed as dementia or Alzheimer's disease. Rarely TKI related even neurological manifestations like peripheral neuropathy or even central neurotoxicity. So these are misdiagnosed as dementia or Alzheimer's disease and they reverse slowly after TKI discontinuation. Pulmonary hypertension with reported with dasatinib and should be considered in patient with shortness of breath and a normal chest X-ray, echocardiogram with emphasis on measurement of pulmonary artery pressure. So this may be reversible with dasatinib discontinuation and occasionally the use of sildenafil citrate. So dasatinib pulmonary hypertension less than 1 to 2%, shortness of breath. Systemic hypertension with more often with ponatinib systemic hypertension, hyperglycemia and occasionally diabetes with nilotinib. So with nilotinib, hyperglycemia and occasionally diabetes. And finally, mid and small vessel arteriocclusive and vasospastic events have been reported at low but significant rates with nilotinib and ponatinib and should be considered possibly TKI related and represent indications to interrupt or reduce the dose of the TKI. So mid and small vessel arteriocclusive and vasospastic events, so they also have been reported at low but significant rates. So what should be done? Interrupt or reduce the dose. So what are these events? Angina, coronary artery disease, MI, peripheral arterial occlusive disease, TIA, cerebrovascular accidents, Raynaud's phenomenon and accelerated atherosclerosis. Although these events are uncommon, less than 5%. They are clinically significant for the patient's long-term prognosis and occur at significantly higher rates than in the general population, particularly among patients with other risk factors. So say they occur common higher than the general population and that too in patients who are having the other risk factors. So serious arteriocclusive and vasospastic events, so these are more common with ponatinib 45 mg daily. And so the serious arteriocclusive and vasospastic events, so these are more common with ponatinib. So discontinuation of TKIs and treatment-free remissions will be continued in the next session.